Discussing about what is a prototype, need of prototype, different types, all those things. Just a broader view of prototype we had a discussion in the last class, and some more depth concepts in that. So here we are going to discuss about the very important key constraints in the prototype stage, where we need to give more focus when we involve in the prototype stage. Material selection. When you are making a prototype, you have to be very careful in selecting the material, because you have to see that what kind of material will best suit for the prototype. Okay, it may be about product based thing. It is a product where you are only drawing and showing. You are able to show only by a 2D diagram. It will not be much effective. Okay, it is a application based one. You are developing a software. For the software, you don't have to go for any physical material to make a prototype. Here you can go with some drawing kind of things. Sketching can be used for a software based products. Okay, so if it is a product which can be used physically, it should be physically visible. There we cannot go with just a paper type of prototyping. Okay, so what kind of product you are making, what kind of application or the software or the system you are going to do it. Accordingly, only we have to select the material. So material selection is even in the physical model also. Material selection is very important. Suppose you want to show some product where it is foldable, but you are using something a very rigid type, solid material which cannot be folded. Okay, so whatever the functionalities you want to visualize, you want to show, you want to experience, accordingly you have to select the material. Okay, so that is the first very important concept. Next comes to scale. So you make a very smaller type, or you make a very big prototype. Okay, so later you want to reduce the size, like you are creating some device. When you are trying to attempt on that making a prototype, it comes out as a very small type. Okay, so you want to show some box to keep the watches or to keep some other devices, but you are making a prototype like a matchbox size. Okay, so the people will not get convinced. For whatever purpose you are making a prototype, it should give at least some point of realistic feel. Realism must be seen at least to some extent. Okay, so you are making something and you are not convinced with the size of it. You want to either increase the size or decrease the size. So whatever the thing, whatever the type, whatever the way you are making the prototype, should support for the scalability. I make something but I am not able to modify anything. I am not able to increase or decrease. Suppose I want to go for a bigger size, I have to throw this away, go with the new type. Or I want to reduce the size also, I cannot make any modification in the prototype. I have to completely throw it away. Now again it is not going to be a effective prototype. Okay, so the prototype, what you are making, it should support scalability. Right? So next comes to test. You should be able to test the prototype. That is the main intention behind making the prototype. You make a prototype and leave it to the user, experts, make them to test the product. Okay, so just by seeing it you must be able to understand, or just by using that you must be able to understand the functionality of it. Whatever the prototype you make, you should be able to test. So again, if it is you go with some kind of prototype where you cannot do testing or validation. If you go with some other type of prototype, that will support for you to test. So that types also we will be seeing. If it is in the early stage, very beginning stage, before you start anything, you will only sketch. We will only draw. This is how it is going to look like. So using which you can only explore your prototype just by drawing only. So you will see that the shape what you have drawn, or the the feature of it, you are not convinced with that, you will be adding it to the paper, or that paper can be thrown away. You can take another paper where you can sketch, or if you are using some good good material where you are sketching it, drawing it. So the material sharp, you are using a chart. So if it is paper, you may just throw it away. If it is chart, you don't feel like throw it away. In that itself, you will try to work actually if it is possible. If not, for the worst case only, you may just replace it with some other charts. Okay. So in the beginning stage, you have only have the idea. First, you will explore it using some basic type of prototyping. That we call it as a low fidelity prototype. Example, sketching and drawing and all. Okay, and you are giving it a lot of wirings and all. It is all free of cost or cheaper price only you have got it. So with that you will make a lot of connections and try, because you are not going to lose anything. Okay, so just using some wire files, I can achieve low fidelity prototypes. Okay, so that is all happening in the early stage where I cannot involve any testing. It is not a final stage. Just I'm starting. While starting, I just made like some blocks, some architecture diagram. Then that architecture will get a real form, and that is where I will be involving some other expensive or some realistic materials. Okay, so please try to understand. Testing, your prototype should be utilized for the testing. When you say it is a prototype, of course by seeing it or by using it, you must be able to test the product. Okay, so the three important constraints are material selection. You have to see that what kind of product you are going to make. Accordingly, you have to select the best material. That scale. When you make a prototype, you should be able to, or it should support for the scalability. Increase the size or decrease the size, or for any modification should support. Then comes to testing. When you make a prototype, you should be able to test and validate your prototype. So next, to create an effective prototype, we are going to use some very important key attributes. Okay, so these are all the points you need to remember as you are going to take your next step for making the prototype for your IAP. Correct? So you are going to make prototype of your idea. So these are all the points you have to keep it in your mind. I think right time we are dealing these topics. Okay, so functionality. So when I make something, it should support the functionality, or it should be able to do the function. When I say that it is, I am making a model of chair, it should look like a chair, and if it is a foldable one, I should be able to fold my prototype also. If it is a box, I should be able to close that box, or if it is something else, I am saying that it is a electric vehicle or something like that. So though it is not a real vehicle, it is a small toy car, when I use that system mechanism, whatever you say, should be able to operate it. Okay, so functionality should be experienced, should be shown from your prototype. Next comes to realism. I say that it is a mobile phone, but it looks like a water bottle. You believe that? Correct? So what is my exact product? It should be almost similar to that. Only the material will not be same. Okay, so it should give a real look of my final product. In such a way, you have to make your prototype. Whenever you make something like you are creating some argo or some other filter kind of thing and all, or you are using some methods to watering the plant, something and all. When you are making it, I should feel that yeah, it looks like that. It will be operated in this manner. Okay. So next comes to flexibility. Yes, you make a prototype, as we all know. After the prototype, we will be testing it. Okay. So from the testing, we may get either positive or negative feedback, or we may get some comment for the improvisation also, right? And then it should, undergo some iterations also. So for that, my prototype should be flexible enough. So you have spent some 2,000 or 3,000 rupees. You have bought some materials using which you are making a prototype. Okay, so but once you make it, you are not able to make any adjustment over there. You get a comment from your mentors or teachers or somebody else. They are saying that this should be changed like this. This should be modified, and so it will look good. Something like some comments you are receiving. Okay, accordingly you want to make some modification on the prototype. If your prototype is not flexible, we will not be able to So you have to make a prototype in such a way that it should be flexible enough for any modification or updation. Because design thinking always insists to process iteratively. This is a systematic approach, but it is not a linear process. It is a non-linear process. Okay, so you kept on iteratively you may be doing the process. So it should be flexible enough. Usability, I should be able to use it. Like that is what you will be saying, like you have made some logo or something like that. They will ask you, okay, you are saying no, it will, like when it detects something, it will allow, that is the alarm sound. You should be able to use it. When it is detecting something, like one of my batch students did a project on hand gestures, using which you will be operating the laptop. So instead of mouse, just by hand movement, the cursor will be moved. Okay, so you don't have to touch the touch screen at all. Just towards your camera, you only have to show your hand gestures. Based on that, right cursor, left cursor, clicking, all those things will be operated. Unless and otherwise, she is showing it to me, I will not trust it. I will be able, I should check it whether it goes well or not. Somebody is saying that it is a drowsy alertness, something like that. So if the driver is driving the vehicle, when he is getting sleep, okay, drowsiness is there means immediately it should get alarmed. So the system is made, though it is not deployed in the car or vehicle, I should be able to see that when I close my eyes, there must be an alarm sound. So it should undergo usability. I should be able to use the system or the product or whatever you are designing it. Only then we say it is a prototype. Unless and otherwise it is launched for the final use, we don't say it is a product. Till then it is a prototype only. Clear my point? So when it is launched, when it is gone to the market for the sales, only then it is called a product. It is ready to use now, it is called a product. Till then it is only a prototype. So prototype should be usable. The second last bench, Vishnu Prasad. Can you give me explanation for the scalability with respect to prototype? Let it be, no problem. Scalability. Why do you require scalability for the prototype? Why it is important key attributes? Sorry? Scalability. Why it has to support scalability? Attention is required. Okay? Sit down. So as I mentioned, you want to deploy something in a very short time. Okay? But that much size of thing you will not be making it here. In the prototype, you may be doing it in the small scale, which can be tested in a very cup of water or a bucket of water only. Then when it works well, we will go and you maximize the size of it, or the functionality may be improved, and then only we will deploy in the real area where it is going to be used. So that prototype should be scalable, or some micro pieces thing you want to make it, but to make your user to understand, you cannot develop it that way. So you will develop or design it in the normal size only. Later the size will be reduced. Batteries and all are there. Okay. So battery, when you are using it in the car, the size of the battery is different. When you are using it in the wall clock, the size will be different, and the mobile phone, the size will be different. Battery is battery only. Okay. But where we are using, accordingly the size is going to be changed. Similarly, your prototype should support for increase or decreasing the size of the product. Okay, so when I say that, okay, the same thing, I want to use it for some other device. My device size itself is very, very small. Then how your battery will be? Should be in a condition to, this is how I will reduce the size of my battery this much. If the material I have to add, and the size of the battery will be reduced in this manner. So like that, you must have idea. So your prototype should be scalable and cost effective. As I mentioned, so frequently we do this process iteratively. Okay, once you make a prototype and then you are doing some modification. Okay, people are advising you, giving you the suggestion as you need to add some more functionalities, some more features need to be added, and then that time you will be modifying your things. Okay, so if you have involved so much cost in that, for every modification there will be money wastage. Okay, so that should not happen. Always, whatever the material you involve, whatever the process you involve in the prototype stage, it should be cost effective. Cost effective. I had already given you one stat, right? That if you are involving a project where multiple crores are involved there, the prototype can be made with few lakhs. When the project worth is multiple lakhs, where thousands can be involved in making the prototype. Okay, so that proportionately it will be cost effective only. But your project, your estimate of your project itself only few thousands. Where for the prototype also you are using that much now, because prototype is changeable. You may have to collect that, like you create a software or application, then as and when some requirement comes, it is getting updated. Okay, so there supports for the scalability, and if it is cost effective, that is I cannot change it. I will have to for adding the feature itself I have to involve lots of lakhs, means it will not be possible. You get my point? So always it must be cost effective. When you choose a material, you have to see that whether I will be able to do it iteratively. In such a way we have to choose it. Okay. Next comes to timeliness. Within a particular time, I think this thing also you have experience now. Though you have a wonderful project or the idea, it cannot be possible now to make a prototype, as the time limit is only very less. Okay, so when you have to launch your product, and this is the time where you have to release your product, before to that itself you need to create the prototype. It has to undergo a lot of testing, validation, and then only you will go with the real implementation of your idea. Okay, so for making the prototype itself, you cannot go for long duration. So any prototype, it has to be completed within the given timeline. Feedback given, this is very important, because prototype will be tested with the users and other experts. So my prototype should support to generate a feedback by the users, just by seeing my product, just by using my product, just by visualizing my product, they should be able to give me the feedback. Okay, rather than me telling something orally, when you see something, this is how it is going to look like, you will be able to say, if it is so, it will be good, or this is awesome, or this is too complicated to use, something like that. You will be able to give us a feedback in such a way that prototype has to be developed, because it has to give a reality look of your product. இப்படிதான் product இருக்க போகுதுங்கிறத நீ முன்னாடி சொல்லி, it is a trial version of it. Okay, fine. So next comes to, as in the last class we had various types of prototypes, starting with the sketching, drawing, wireframes, storyboarding, role play, and finally physical model. Right? So all these things come under mainly of two categories. Two different types of there. One sketching, other one is prototype. One more type is also there, that is the classification of the prototype. With respect to some of its properties, we classify it into low fidelity prototype and high fidelity prototype. This is the way how we make. Based on that, we classify the prototypes into two types. They are sketches and prototypes. Okay, what are the difference between these two types, sketching and prototype? We are going to differentiate with respect to these four characteristics or attributes or factors. Purpose. For what purpose I am creating a prototype? It is for the physical product, or it is for the software, or it is for the system. I am just automating, or suddenly I am changing the system. Some discipline system has changed, some other security system I am going to change it, like some system I am going to introduce, or it is going to be automation, or it is going to be a software revolution, whatever it may be. Okay, for what purpose I am making a prototype. Based on that, only we can choose either sketching or prototype. Suppose it is going to be a software based thing. For that I can just go with the sketching itself. Sketching. I am going to show something as a device or some machine. So that machine, sketching can be the earlier stage. But for the final stage also I am showing it as a drawing. Now you will not be able to feel that as a product. You cannot understand because you need to know where there will be a switch. Suppose you have to switch on something, there will be a water splash, something that another device is being designed. Okay, so initially I can show it by a drawing. But later period, since it is a product, physically visible product, you have to use a prototype. So you may be confused, ma'am. In general, you are saying prototype for reality. Classification also how it is prototype and sketching. Everything is prototype only, but prototype earlier model we say it is sketching. Final model we say it is towards end of the completion of the prototype we say it is a prototype. Okay, but for some items, some systems and what, we don't even require any of the physical model. You are creating an application, you are designing a website. For website, you cardboard design. It is not required. Okay, so there I require some of the animation. Only sketching itself will be sufficient for that. Okay, but for something, it is a product you are going to hold it in your hand, or you are going to keep it at the house and going to use it. Definitely, it should be a physical prototype. Okay, so in the classification of physically visible models are prototype. Visible model, making something is a model only, prototype. Okay, fine. So for what purpose I am making? Based on that, I can choose either sketching or prototype. Whether it is for the beginning stage or it is for the end stage. When I am going to do this, based on I start with the sketching and then I complete it with the physical model. What purpose I am using? Based on that view. Then fidelity. So it is for the low fidelity purpose or high fidelity purpose. Low fidelity again, you can only explore what is going to be. That's it. This is how my product is going to look like. That is what earlier stage of anything is called a low fidelity. Low fidelity. High fidelity only is used for testing and validation. Testing and validation. Starting I am just giving you a block diagram. This is how my machine is going to look like. Okay. But using that block diagram, I cannot test it. I cannot use it. Unless and otherwise, I use it, I cannot give any comment about it. So it has to be used, it has to be tested, it has to be validated. So that is possible when it is a high fidelity prototype. So if you are going to make a low fidelity prototype, go with the sketches. If you are going to make a high fidelity prototype, go with the prototype. Now there is a question for you now. For any particular product, will you be able to say for this only low fidelity is required or high fidelity is required? For any product, particularly any one fidelity is required or both are required? Both are required. Whatever it may be, even it is software or application also, initially you will draw out of block diagram. But at the end, after making the application, you need to test and validate, right? I create a website for you, okay, exclusively for first IT students. So I have to leave it to you and I will ask you to log in and check it. Then you will test and tell me. Based on that, then you have to either improve or repeat. Clear? So the final stage we say is a high fidelity. Initial stage, this is how I am going to look like when I start taking the steps. It is on low fidelity. Similarly, any other physically visible product too. And then iteration. So your low fidelity or sketching can undergo lot of iterations. Paper pitch and again because the papers are going to involve some colors or whatever the materials we use it for sketching and drawing or like storyboarding and role play. So these things are not I can do it so many times iteratively. Whereas when I involved some materials into that, where I have invested some cost, as I mentioned, it is some 10,000 worth product, okay, and I have utilized some 2,000 rupees for the prototype itself. So I don't feel like wasting it, right? Again, I have to iterate now. So some 3 or 4 times we need to iterate. Every time that money is going to be wasted, or I have to add some more money, so that risk I won't take. So if it is low fidelity, if it is sketching, drawing, storyboarding, I don't worry about it. That the cost involved is very, very less only. Okay. So whether it is I am going to take lot of time iteration when I will be doing initial stage only. Once I reach the end stage, I will not completely do again from the scratch. From the scratch, doing rubbing everything, writing again and all will happen at the earlier stage only. At the end of the stage, if you are rubbing everything and starting, it will not work out. Am I right? Yeah. So that is what needs to be clearly understood and then decided. Sketches are prototype. Physical model panna parage thirumba iterate pandrom appadina it will be difficult. Little changes are possible, not the entire thing. But if it is in the earlier stage, low fidelity stage, sketches, drawing stage, then it is possible. So idea ve illa thirumba naanga confuse aayite irukkom the stage la don't purchase adukku naan solren. Clear with your prototype and then procure the components. The components எல்லாம் காசு போட்டு வாங்கிட்டு அதுக்கு அப்புறம் இது எல்லாமே எனக்கு தேவையில்லை, I need another set of components now, it's not possible. Okay, that is the high fidelity end, that is the prototype end. But sketching end now, again and again you will iterate the process. Next comes to feedback, whether it should be a feedback driven or not. First one the discussion stage la da. Okay, so when you are in the discussion stage, when you are in the exploring stage, when you go to the sketching, drawing, storyboarding and all those things. Okay, now you are going to leave it to the user for getting the feedback, leave it to the experts to get the feedback. Now you need to go with the prototype. Okay, but please remember it has to go, there are 2 different types, but it should start with sketching and do the prototype. Okay, so this is how